You have to paint all of these before getting any food.
Master is our friend. When we finish, we get fishes.
Welcome to Bardscraft. That was my friend Jerry. He has painted miniatures, but never made any terrain. In this video, I'll teach this noob how to craft cave and dungeon tiles. Let's all appreciate him for leaving these great warriors at my place. We are starting by doing the cave tiles or hills. First, we cut out suitable pieces from my thick sheet of XPS foam. I advised Jerry to use drawing cuts. It's not that hard. But here you can see that he tried to push the knife through without drawing. That is not good. These are all the rough pieces we cut out. Clearly, this foam is too thick, so we split it in half. I hope everybody can find foam of suitable thickness, as this part is a bit too tricky. Next, shape the pieces and add stone textures. Just rip off pieces using the knife. Here we noticed that the stone textures are too deep. Tiles like this won't look good when connected to form caves. Do smaller and shallower cuts and rips. That is good. On some tiles where we failed the cut, we cut out the bad area, creating a nice lower level on the tile. Now take that aluminum foil ball and start applying stone textures. Simply press the aluminum ball against the foam. The horizontal surfaces will be partially covered with sand and rubble flocking, so just focus on adding deeper textures on some areas. After some labor, the textures were done on all of the tiles. Great, now pour on some PVA glue. Spread it out evenly over the surfaces and then sprinkle on sand and pebble flocking. This is bark, by the way, simply chopped up. Then we cleaned up and let the glue dry for a while. Next up, make a base coat from glue, brown paint and a bit of water. We also added some black to make it a bit darker. Just cover the flat surfaces of the pieces. Make sure to get the base coat in between the bark bits and don't leave too much paint anywhere. That hides the textures. You have to paint all of these before getting any food.
Master is our friend. When we finish, we get fishes.
Indeed. Now we painted the sides with black. Just black with a bit of water mixed in. The diluted paint is easier to spread out. Hey, stop assembling miniatures. It is time to dry brush. Take that grey and remove paint until I say stop. Stop. That is good. Now gently brush over the terrain. The idea is to get paint mostly on the highlights. Take your time and do it slowly. It doesn't have to be quick. These cave tiles or stone hills are slightly more advanced as they have a two-color base coat plus the bark. But the dry brushing is simple as all is covered with the same paints. Next, a dry brush with a tan. Just apply the paint really lightly. That is a bit too heavy, no food today. After a while, when the brush was drier and the strokes lighter, the results were much better. We'll set these up later and see how they work, but before fun comes hard work, tears and early mornings, so we'll make the dungeon tiles first. Again, I recommend getting foam that is already of suitable thickness. I didn't. Here I'm demonstrating the cut. Long drawing motions cut the foam like butter. Now it's your turn to prove yourself. Alright, the cut is clean enough, but here we can see that the cut is not along the line. No problem, we fixed that and cut all of these pieces. We then removed the factory surfaces like this and decided to make tiles of 3 sizes, 5 cm by 5, 5 by 10 and 5 by 15. We then cut out the tiles, practicing the way of the drawing cut. Yes, now he's getting it. You shouldn't have lesser excuses such as, "Oh, you're so talented with the knife, I wish I could cut like you. Your foam seems so easy to cut, blah blah blah." This knife isn't even shaving sharp. Just practice the cuts and find materials that you can work with. Great, then it's time to make the individual tiles. Make shallow cuts on the top. Good. And then connect these cuts to a cut that goes along the bottom. Next, do the usual stone textures with the aluminum foil. Apply deeper textures and damage on some points. You can even rip out a few bits. Then use a pencil to enlarge the spaces between the tiles. After this, we also made cracks on some places just by using a pencil. The dungeon tiles were then base painted with black. Make sure to get paint into all crevices. This is easier done with a slightly diluted black paint. The paint is now dry enough. Paint a layer of grey next. Apply almost full coverage. The angle between the foam and the brush should be small. This will lead to more paint on the highlights and less in the lower parts of the details. Jerry also made these special pieces with a few brown tiles. Good. While the grey dries, make a dark wash. Mix black and brown paint into some water. Then add a drop of dishwashing detergent. This will help the wash to settle into the deeper textures, contributing to higher contrast. He wanted to proceed by washing, so we'll do it in this order. We applied the wash before the last dry brushed layer. Nothing complicated here, just wash over everything and drip off the excess wash. For the next episode, we'll try to make terrain for the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Stay tuned for that by subscribing. Thanks. Now dry brush the dungeon tiles using that tan. We are using low quality cheapo brushes because that's really all you need to get started if you want to build your own terrain. When dry brushing the last layer of paint, make sure you only have a tiny amount of paint on the brush. The dungeon tiles are good for assembling a basic dungeon and can be used as floors in buildings or stacked into stairs. These tiles were for Jerry, so he took them home and I got the stone hills or cave tiles. These can be used to create interesting cave systems with multiple layers. Alternatively, they work as stone formations that can be stacked for impressively vertical terrain. Put on a bridge and you got yourself an encounter. You can do many great things by using simple terrain and by subscribing to Bard's Craft. Do that if you appreciate the content, and I'll show you how to craft more terrain and minis.